my name is Chelsea Dion. I am a female bodybuilder, IFBB Pro. I just won the overall at Nationals in December, which was amazing. It was the first time I'd actually stepped on stage as a female bodybuilder. I'd always done women's physique, and I decided a little bit before that I was going to just hop up to female bodybuilding, and I feel like I found my home. I've been competing since 2014. That's when I did my very first show. And then I took about 4 years off just because my body was fighting me so hard. I was trying to get back on stage, and I fell into some bad eating habits and binge eating, all that stuff. And then finally got back on stage 2018, came back again in 2020, and then won nationals last year.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. Now I'm getting ready for the Chicago Pro for my pro debut.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break here just for a second. Let me tell you about Smoking Gun Coffee. They're a veteran-owned coffee company that strives to produce a quality coffee at an affordable price. They only buy coffee from small coffee farmers around the world with a cup score of at least 85. Each batch is roasted to order for maximum freshness. They also donate a large portion of their proceeds to organizations that help local communities, veterans, first responders, or you can donate to the foundation of your choice at the checkout by going to www.smokingguncoffee.com. That's SMOKIN Gun Coffee.
What introduced you to this sport?
So I've grown up as always being an athlete. I played softball my whole life, like all year round, nonstop. I also did tennis. I actually played a little bit of tennis in college until I realized that I had no idea what I wanted to do. After I stopped playing sports, I started partying a lot, got into put a lot of weight on. And so that's when I was like, okay, I need to do something. So I started actually reading Oxygen magazine back in the day. This was 2010, 2011. And in the very back of those magazines, they had a competitors corner where they had figure competitors, which was really the only class that they talked about back then. And so I was like, what is that? I want to do that. I want to get shredded and compete. And I'm from a small town, and nobody quite understood what that meant. So I moved to San Diego, changed my life, got into fitness. And then that's kind of what got me in there. Was I needed a change. People were making fun of me, teasing me because I put on a bunch of weight. I was pretty popular in that town and put on all that weight, and people were just vicious. And I was like, you know what? Fuck you guys. I'm going to get into fitness. I'm going to show you guys. And here I am.
It's interesting how, that can go one way or the other, that experience can push people either to, like you did, see what you can do to become the best version of yourself, or it can kind of make people go the opposite direction. And
absolutely. I mean, honestly, I did have some moments of wallowing. I one night had received a few text messages from a bunch of unknown numbers, and they were basically telling me I was an embarrassment and I'd put on a bunch of weight, I should go kill myself. And I remember just crying in bed, with my best friend. I was just so I couldn't understand why people are so mean. That's one thing that's never been inside of me, is meanness and cattiness. So I'm just what the energy to put into that, it's never made sense to me. So yeah, I kind of, was sad about it, but I was I totally turned it around for fuel. And, people know of me in my hometown just because I did go change my life and do what I said I was going to do.
Yeah.
Which is great. I want to be an inspiration. I want to be a motivation. And if Chelsea could do it, then I could do it,
Yeah, that's really cool. And kind of on the same point though, people will, when you're down, they'll kick you when you're down, but they'll also, when you start to succeed, that's when they'll also be whatever kind of things I want to say, whether it's, you're too good for us, you had to go, do something else, or, you're not good enough to make it or whatever it is. Like there's always those people who, no matter what stage of life you're in, whether it's the hard part or the successful part, there's
Yeah.
always those people who are just there to tear you down. And I think that goes back to surrounding yourself with good people.
Yeah. And those, those people are just tests. It's just the universe testing you. How strong are you really? How focused on this goal are you really? You know, they're just put in place to kind of just see if you really do want it, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And getting into the sport and being in it for a little while now, like how have you seen the sport change over, since you've been in it till now?
Man, just girls are getting more and more shredded. Like just crazy conditioned, especially with women's physique. That's where I initially started, and I could never get that lean until my last show was the leanest I'd ever gotten, and now this is the leanest I'd ever been. So I can't imagine what 3.5 more weeks is going to be. But yeah, these women's physique girls are just peeled to the bone. And it makes all the other classes really need to get leaner and leaner. Other than that, I've just seen it grow more. I love that there's wellness. I love that there's so many different looks. Like if I wasn't built the way I was built, I would love to do wellness. Wellness is sexy. So is female bodybuilding too. But I love that there's more classes. It's bringing more eyes to the sport. It's bringing more attention. And that's what I want. Is I want more people to see us.
Yeah. And it is cool to have like different avenues for people to go down who have different body types. And I think it really does open it up to so many new people and on the men's and women's side. And it's just, it seems like to me, it's so much more of an option now. Back when I was a kid and, I was such a fan of Arnold, and that's how I kind of got into fitness in the first place. But that generation seemed like, and it could have just been because I'm a kid, but it seemed like, it was like even though it is a small fraction of the population now, it just seemed like it was these almost superheroes that had to, you had to be almost a superhero to get into that kind of thing. Now it seems like anybody can do it.
Which is cool in a way, but yeah, it does kind of lose its like specialness, I guess. But people are using fitness in so many different ways, getting healthier, using it to focus on life, stay off drugs, whatever. That's what is important.
Yeah, I think it is. It's really cool whether you're using bodybuilding to kind of make a career out of it, or whether you are using it to turn your life around, build discipline within your life, because it is like we talked about at the beginning. It's this avenue to where it's building characteristics that at pretty much no other path, in life, unfortunately, is helping us do, especially as kids. We're kind of growing up in this generation to where certain things aren't being valued the same way as they used to be. And I think bodybuilding is a cool sport because it still instills like discipline and hard work and, consistency, all these different things.
Yeah, it's very true.
So, going into when you first got into it and you learned about kind of bodybuilding through, these magazines, and you kind of probably had some ideas about what it was about, some misconceptions probably. Tell us a little bit about kind of what you thought versus what the reality was.
Honestly, I don't even know what my expectation was. I just knew like I needed to do it. And maybe because like I grew up doing pageants as well, like when I was younger. So in a sense, I was like, I've done stuff like this before. Like I'm just showing my body off in a bikini instead. So I don't know.
Do you think like the dieting aspect, or maybe the posing, like definitely posing is something that I think people that aren't in the sport do overlook as part of, an essential aspect of it.
That is a very huge critical part that people don't think about. I guess it was more of like, I didn't realize that I would be like dieting all the time year round. And that like, because for my body type, like I can't like just go off plan all the time. I'm in my off season plan. I'm in my cutting plan. When I stray away is when I put the fat on. So I'm a professional now, so that's how I have to live my life. But yeah, I guess I didn't understand that with bodybuilding and the dieting, it does, kind of bring on a lot of like eating disorders that people deal with. And not a lot of people talk about that. And, post-show blues, that is something that you don't prepare for at all when you go in to do your first show. And then that's also something people don't talk about either, about how sad and fucked up they feel after. So yeah, that's one misconception for sure.
And how did you kind of deal with that, after your first show of the post-show blues and you're like, what do I do now kind of thing?
Okay, so my very first show, my husband at the time deployed for like a 9-month deployment, literally like 2 weeks after. So I went from like being super disciplined to not having someone there to be like, hey, don't eat a whole box of cereal and a whole box of Oreos at the same time, And so I went from, I think I was on stage at like 165 or something. I blew up to 220 in like 3 months, not even, fast. And that's why it took me about almost 4 years for my body to finally kind of like level out and like was ready to maybe like start prepping again. That pro show is extremely hard. I was not ready for that. And especially when you go from like, like really dieting for like the first time ever, and then having that free reign, people don't realize you lose control easy.
Yeah. And, that kind of idea right there of like, that's the beginning of your journey. How do you feel like, you responded to that and learned from that and took that into kind of the next time that situation popped up?
Oh, it did take me, my second show, I kind of rebounded pretty hard, but not nearly as bad. And then the next year after that, a little bit less. And then this year I did super good. Probably also because I had a lot of opportunities that I got to do that I required like having to look good for. So that kept me on the straight and narrow. But yeah, every time I prepped, the first time was so bad. Oh, that recon was so bad. Then the next time, a little, still pretty bad, but not as bad. So you learn as you go. One thing that I did deal with a lot was binge eating, like heavy. I would spend like tons of money at the grocery store and eat all of it because I was like, I gotta finish it or else, I can't have it in the house. That was a hard cycle. But eventually you learn that like eating that is not worth how you feel. Because when I eat good, I eat on my plan, I feel amazing. I don't have an upset stomach, digestion's great. I don't feel bad about myself, but when I eat crap, it's just not worth it anymore.
This podcast is sponsored by Smoking Gun Coffee, a veteran-owned coffee company that strives to give back to those in need. Don't forget to use code TWR10 for a 10% discount at checkout.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned right there kind of an important idea of like guilt in a way, and using guilt and sometimes to your favor. I think sometimes we, in today's day and age, we think if we feel guilty about something, we have to like immediately forgive ourselves. And it's like, okay, in a way, like I see where you do have to like forgive yourself for certain things, but like if something makes you feel bad, then I think you have to understand why it's making you feel bad. Are you feeling bad because it's something that maybe isn't good for you? And use, like I said, using that guilt in a constructive way instead of a destructive way.
Yeah. With me, I would like eat these things and I would in my head pretend I didn't, so I would just like push it off that I didn't do it. And then I would go in the gym and I would just kill myself. I would train so hard. But out of all of those rebounds and, struggling with eating bad and putting on all the weight, I truly believe it helped me build the foundation I have. Yep. The size that I have, my legs, Because during the break in 2014 to 2018, I dabbled in powerlifting, and I was actually really good at it and not even trying. So that kind of helped, I think, put some muscle on too. And, I just believe that everything happens for a reason. So I went through all that shit to put size on, that's how I see it.
No, I think that's a great way to look at it, because every, potential negative thing that does happen can be turned around and seen as some type of positive. It's all about the mindset and keeping it, not letting one mistake lead to the next, thinking, okay, I made that mistake, but where's the next opportunity that can, take me to where I think I want to go? Because, life is so weird, because you might start out doing one thing and you end up in a completely different, realm of what you thought was maybe even possible for you when you set out.
Yeah. I mean, when I first set out to do this, I wanted to be in magazines. I wanted to, get into kind of acting stuff. I wanted to be seen. And as my life continues to go, it's like these things are coming to me. I've had these opportunities. I've worked with Tove Lo for her visuals for her albums. I've modeled for companies that never used fitness models before. It's crazy to see what has come to me. When I first started out doing this, I was like, all I knew is that I wanted to compete and to be in magazines. And, it's just crazy that it's happening essentially. But, now magazines don't really exist. It's happening in the digital way.
Yeah. It's, you never know what kind of opportunity is going to be presented to you. So I think, staying ready and being ready. But what do you think it is about bodybuilding in particular that really draws you to it? Because it's definitely not something that it's like, okay, I'm going to go down here because it's easy to do. It takes so much to do it. What do you think it is that makes you want to do it?
Because it's 100% myself. It's not a team. There's nobody else except for me. I get up there, I look the way I do because I put in the work. Yeah, I have a coach who's helped me, but I'm the one who's done the reps. I've built this. And, I love to train. I love to push myself. I love being strong. So all these things just translate over to bodybuilding. I love being a huge buff woman. I love people seeing me and being like, what the fuck? That's why I love bodybuilding.
Yeah. I think it separates you, a little bit from the pack. It separates you.
Yeah.
And it shows you, it shows others the hard work. That's cool. The cool thing about bodybuilding is it really is a physical representation of how much hard work that you have put in. And it's really cool.
Yeah. And it's like a representation of, I feel like, how much you care about yourself too.
Right. So going from, starting in this sport and then, having a little bit of experience in it, and now, being a pro, what, especially maybe from the training side or from the recovery side, what has changed in your training that has kind of led you to be, have the success that you have had?
I believe it's come down to me not sabotaging myself anymore and really staying on my diet, because that's always been the struggle. Yeah, the dieting was just so hard for me. And it's 2021, I finally figured it out. Maybe because I started smoking more weed. I don't know. But I smoke my weed, I make my meal, I enjoy my meal, I wait for my next one. It doesn't really get old. It's so funny because my boyfriend and I will be sitting there and I'm eating my chicken and rice and I'm like, oh, this is so good. And he's like, you just ate that exact same thing, the last 2 meals. And I'm like, yeah, I know, it doesn't get old. I've just found different ways to cook things and season things, sauces. And that's definitely been the biggest part of me turning pro. As far as my training, this prep for my pro debut was actually the first time that I've had my coach do my actual training program. I've always kind of trained myself. So far it's working. I mean, we'll see, the stage shots when I compare them.
And talking about the pro, getting that pro card, tell us a little bit about that experience, emotionally, what it was like to kind of, going into it where you're like, this is the one, and then like getting on stage and then getting off and then hearing your name, like tell us a little bit about that experience.
Oh my gosh, I like want to cry just thinking about it. So I'm not like the type of person who like looks for other competitors who are competing. So all I knew is that like I was gonna be there. So when I rolled up to backstage, I was running late. So, and all the girls are already pumping up. And I'm like, shit. So I take my clothes off real quick and I just like, we're all scoping each other out. And I'm like, I'm just looking at everybody from behind. I'm like, not shredded glutes, not shredded glutes, not shredded glutes. I'm like, my glutes are pretty shredded. I'm like, if I could just really nail those back shots, I was like, I think I could have something here, right? So just like the moment I got on stage, like it just felt so right. Like being up there as like a female bodybuilder, like I just felt like I had found my home, like the moment I stepped up there. And so we did the lineup, and with I think there was like the amount of girls, like there was nobody in like the center, so it was like two and two. And so we get off stage, and I was like worried about that, honestly, just because you never know. And so I don't know, talked to my coach. He was super happy. But I just tried to stay like focused, because the more I was like, if I looked online and stuff, I was like, I'd get in my head. Last thing I want to do is get cocky. And then, so all I know is that when I went back to nationals, or when I went back for finals, I was standing in line, and like Stephanie Novak, she was right in front of me. We did our individual posing routines, and she looked at me and she's like, congrats, girl, you did so good, like you have this. And I was like, don't like say that yet, like we but that instantly right there, I already started crying, and she was like, suck it up. She's like, there's no crying. So inside I kind of felt like, okay, I think I might have this, like I might have at least have my class. So when they called my name out for winning my pro card, I was like, just so it didn't even seem real yet. And then we went for the overall. That was like that was so cool. The pose down was so much fun. Got right up there in the front. And then when they called me out for that, it's still, I just don't even really have words for it. It's going to be like the best memory so far of my life. I've worked, it's just crazy because I just had wanted to go pro for so long, and it had finally came to me in the best way at the biggest show of the year, going into female bodybuilding, and just having like a lot of support from like the female bodybuilding community already. That was cool as well, because I think people have just been waiting for me to move up.
Do you feel like you're somebody that works better, not necessarily an underdog, but not feeling that sense of like security on whether knowing, hey, I got this? Like, do you feel like you kind of work better from behind in a way?
Yeah, I think so. And so when people tell me like, oh yeah, you're doing great, you're gonna kill it, like it kind of fucks me up, because I'm like, oh, I'm doing good. So I need to like constantly remind myself like, no, bitch, you have to like prove yourself now. Like just because everybody's like, hey, you look great, like you're gonna do super awesome in Chicago, doesn't mean I'm going to. I have to show up. So
Yeah.
it definitely makes me want to work harder. But I know when I get to stage, like my mindset changes to like, I'm confident, like I'm the baddest bitch. Like that's what when I'm ready to get on stage, I'm like, fuck all you bitches, I'm the baddest bitch here. Like I'm ready, because I have to have that mentality on stage, I think, to like exude what I want to, like posing wise.
What do you feel like you've learned about yourself during, this journey?
I've definitely learned that I can be my biggest enemy, but I can also be my biggest motivator. And I've learned that this is easy. Dieting is easy. Training is easy. It's dealing with all the other shit, I think, that's harder on top of all of it. Dealing with, keeping your mentality in the right place, just trying to stay positive all the time, not allowing negative influences to come in. Like, being a female bodybuilder is extremely like hard. You have to have tough skin. I've noticed just as I've gotten leaner, the stairs, people, you could take that two ways, right? When people are staring at you. Some days when I'm in my positive bubble and I see people staring or whatever, I'm like, they're just admiring. They think that's cool. They've never seen someone like me. But if I'm having a day where I'm like in a negative mood and I see someone staring or snickering, I'm instantly like, oh, they're making fun of me, So that's like one thing that I'm constantly always working on, is trying to remember that also their opinion doesn't matter, and that it doesn't affect me, and it shouldn't affect me. Because yeah, people are mean. People also don't have they have no filter sometimes. Like, they'll ask you anything. Are you a woman? Were you born a woman? Like, are you transitioning? It's like, you get it all the time.
Hearing that from a woman's perspective, in men's bodybuilding, I feel like obviously it's kind of looked at in a different light, never kind of side by side of those like that.
Yeah. When people see big, huge bodybuilders, some people are like, ew, that's too much, gross. But when they see a female bodybuilder, a lot of the time people are like, ew, that's gross, and it's a shame.
Yeah.
But, it's now that fitness, I think, is becoming bigger and more accepted.
I think as like fitness does become more popular, like it is, a couple years ago, 5-10 years ago, women lifting weights was weird. Now it's like pretty much anybody you see online that's a woman is like telling other women to lift weights, and things are just like changing. They're evolving in fitness for sure.
Everyone's got fit in their Instagram name now.
Absolutely. General fitness, it feels like it's kind of meeting bodybuilding a lot more kind of in the middle nowadays.
Kind of, yeah. I think just because of like the new classes, it's people are seeing that it's more obtainable.
Yeah.
Which is great. More people, the better. I would love to see more female bodybuilders, come up, which I hope that's one thing that I would like to inspire, is hopefully some younger girls to want to come up and become a female bodybuilder one day. And maybe they like my look better than they like more of the, big female bodybuilders, which is, that look is great too, but not everybody wants to look like that.
Right. And, you kind of mentioned it right there, the next generation, people that look at you, like, what advice would you have for that person who is, wanting maybe to get into bodybuilding and they really want to kind of be successful in the sport? What advice would you have for them?
Find a good coach and put your head down and start working. Try to limit distractions and realize that bodybuilding is very selfish, and you need a few select people around. And that's really it. You're going to miss out on some fun opportunities and stuff. But if bodybuilding is something that you truly want to do, that shouldn't bother you at all. I did used to party a lot, and it affected my bodybuilding and stuff. And I don't do that anymore. I do like my occasional raves, but my career now is bodybuilding. Like, this is how I make my income. So partying is for when I celebrate a win, which is like what I did last year after nationals. We went to a rave for New Year's, and I went and had the time of my life, and then went back to being focused,
Yeah.
Balance.
Absolutely balance. And people think balance is like 50-50 all the time. And it's really not, it's I think in the long term, it kind of is 50-50, but it's about putting in the 90% today so you can enjoy,
Absolutely.
90% fun, later on down the line. So
Yeah.
it's all about kind of putting in the work and kind of reaping those rewards and
Yeah.
finding something that you're passionate about too, because there's so many people who kind of go through life and they don't have anything that they are passionate about. They kind of just
Yeah.
get up, go to work, look forward to the, what they're going to watch on TV that night. And it's kind of
What they're
sad,
gonna
but
do on the weekend. Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of sad, but I think fitness is developing an avenue where people they can find something that they love. And a lot of times it's themselves. And I think that's a really powerful thing.
Yeah, I mean, thanks to social media, man, it's changed my life. It's allowed me to focus on bodybuilding 100%, and which is allowing me to be a better bodybuilder, which I could say is also one thing that's really, I think, helped me be successful, is the fact that I've been able to just make my day all about bodybuilding. I wake up, cardio, eat, work a little bit, train, eat. My day 100% revolves around getting better and being a solid pro. Like, I want to show up on stage at Chicago looking like a pro. Um, we need that in the bodybuilding community right now for women. So I'm ready to get up there and prove that I'm worth being a pro.
Yeah. And I think it's really cool. You kind of said we need that. And as bodybuilding becomes more, financially, um, something that people can rely on financially, they can put more time into it.
Yeah, I am beyond blessed, and I thank the universe every single day for the fact that I'm doing what I'm doing, because it's provided me with a life that I never expected or thought I could give myself.
Yeah.
So I think bodybuilding every single day. It's my American dream. I never grew up wanting to have kids and have a white picket fence in suburbia. Like, I want to, retire, go live on an island, like wearing a bikini constantly and training and just like enjoying my life. Like, I don't need material things. I just want to like enjoy the rest of my life. Like, I'm working hard now to relax later.
That's a really good message. And, I really appreciate you coming on here and sharing your
No
journey with
problem.
us.
It's been an amazing journey. And that's one thing that I'm happy that I've always documented everything on Instagram. Like, if you could go all the way back and see basically my whole fitness like journey. So yeah, it's been awesome being on here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And if you want to share your social media with people, they can kind of connect with you and maybe be motivated by
Okay.
what you're doing.
Yeah, so my Instagram is Chelsea Baby. That's spelled CHELCBABYYY. And then I also just started my YouTube channel. So I'm trying to post at least 2 videos a week right now, following up to my prep. And that's under Chelsea Dion. You can look for it there. And yeah.
Awesome. Well, that will be down in the description. So go check it
Cool.
out. Get motivated, get to doing something, find a passion that you love. And like I said, good luck with you moving forward.
Thank you. Thank you so much.